Hello and welcome to the Digital India Summit, a premier initiative by Times Network. Now, this year we have a very special theme. Our theme is Enabling a Revolution. And today's topic is also very special and it's very important. In fact, today we're going to be talking about the importance of technology and innovation in empowering India's financial sector. I have a panel of experts here with me. Allow me to introduce them. First up, we have Mr. Nitesh Ranjan. He's the ED at Union Bank of India. We have Mr. Adhil Sethi, the CEO of Bank Bazar, and we have Mr. Rajesh Mirjankar. He's the MD and CEO at Kiya.ai. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me here today. Let's kickstart our discussion. I'd like to start with you, Mr. Ranjan. In your opinion, how can technology be a game changer and an enabler for the financial system?
As you said, I would say that technology has always been an enabler for the banking system. And as the things are today with the digital and technology in the banking, I see we are in the fourth phase of technology revolution in banking. And I would say that the first phase was when we started in 90s about the computerization, which was followed by the second phase and which was core banking and which really transformed banking and it became kind of anytime, anywhere banking. And third phase is obviously we have seen over the last decade how the payment system has got transformed. Today, actually, we are getting gradually into the fourth phase, which is led by the digital and new technologies, which is going to create the hyper personalization, which is going to create the straight through processes, create the intelligent automation, and create a lot of customer experience and operational excellence for the banking and the commerce as such. I would also say that the new phase of technology in the banking is also relevant as India is looking at becoming a $5 trillion economy. And for that, ease of doing business, and as a part of that, ease of access to credit and ease of access to financial products is very, very important. Today, when we look at our country, almost 70 million enterprises of different sizes do not have access to the formal credit. More than 550 million of people population in the country are having feature phones and therefore they are deprived from what all of us can do on the smartphone. Similarly, there is a high operating cost and transaction cost in the banking system. I think these new technology can solve a lot of these problems and create customer experience through the self-service and the straight-through processing and bringing the intelligent automation. So there is a huge opportunity that the new technology and the digital can bring to the financial system.
Mr. Shetty, I'll come to you. Now, over the past 2 years, of course, with the pandemic and earlier because of demonetization, Indians moved or rather were forced to move to the online mode. We got used to doing everything, almost everything digitally, especially talking about the financial services. But now, with the pandemic hopefully on its way out, what do you think of some of the factors that have made Indians, on a general level, adopt technology faster to manage their finances? Besides these mega events, what else do you think has helped Indians adopt technology to manage their finances?
I think what's happened in the pandemic is two things have changed from the consumer side. So the first thing that's changed, right, is today consumers expect what they got from UPI, like what Mr. Ranjan was saying. They expect the same thing in terms of taking a loan. They expect the same thing in terms of opening a savings account. I think what has happened is all the user experience people have got in shopping, in entertainment, now they're expecting the same kind of experience when they're applying for a credit card. Now, obviously, credit is very different from any of the other industries I mentioned, right? For example, there is the issue of risk, there's the issue of compliance. But can we ensure that level of security? But can we still give that kind of pan-India experience? I think the pandemic has challenged everyone. It's challenged the banks, it's challenged the fintechs, and it's brought us together. I'll give you one simple example, right? Before the pandemic, we had to meet consumers before we were able to do a full KYC. So literally, we had to go to the consumer's office or house, meet them, and pick up a document. During the pandemic, for the very first time, all the banks and fintechs started investing in video KYC. Today, a single person is able to do 10 times the number of video KYCs, 10 times the number of KYCs that they were doing in the physical world. So I think the combination of technology enabling instant secure experiences and the combination of banks and fintechs coming together is giving consumers a different expectation for what the future will be like. And this expectation is only increasing because of everything that's happening in digital India.
Mr. Mirjankar, I want to come to you on a very important point of artificial intelligence. Now, it's quite a buzzword. Everybody seems to be talking about artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc., etc. But when we talk about it in the scope of financial services, how is it changing the game? There's a new term being thrown around nowadays called the neobank, which is a bank which doesn't have a physical presence. So a customer doesn't have to ever actually go to a physical store, physical branch. So, but how safe is it compared to the current existing chain of physical banks?
Add on to the point that Mr. Ranjan mentioned in terms of the areas of what will be the focus in this generation of banking, 4.0 as he puts it, uh, where you will look at hyper personalization and customer experience and seamless transactions being the way forward. When we look at these aspects, artificial intelligence will certainly help. In areas such as hyper personalization, you are able to bring across products that suit the customer's appetite from the actions taken by the customer on various channels through. You are able to address grievances very proactively rather than looking to have reminders on grievances being addressed. And over a period of time with machine learning, being able to proactively bring solutions forward before getting grievances. An important area where artificial intelligence has already been put in use is in the area of fraud and risk compliance or risk management, where we find the threats from cybersecurity and also various scams that happen from misuse of IDs, identities. That's an area that artificial intelligence has already been put to use. And I guess moving the usage of artificial intelligence forward into what we define from what Mr. Adil also mentioned is easy credit, fast credit, the ability to sort of get credit scores and understand the bank or the fintech's lending model and applying that will be very useful. Artificial intelligence will be something that will be very apt for that sort of an area. And lastly, I think from a perspective of the customer experience, we will see new areas of technology, such as we've heard about the metaverse. I'm sure within the next 2 years, we will see a banking metaverse, um, if not earlier. There will also be the use of voice commerce and use of voice commerce more actively, where you don't need to necessarily go through a hamburger menu on the internet or on a desktop or go through a tile based menu on a mobile phone. It will be more instinctive to what the customer desires and be able to take up instructions. So, an area where you will see a revolution in true terms will probably be in the areas of customer experience, importantly. And lastly, I think the use of artificial intelligence will be in the area of detecting cybercrime and trying to prevent the ability to sort of, the or reduce the frauds that are caused from cybercrime. So these, I think, are the wide usages of what artificial intelligence will have.
Right. Mr. Ranjan, I want to dive deeper into what's happening at the bank. So, at Union Bank of India, in your context, how is the bank leveraging the value of technology at present, and what are some plans for the future?
I would say that we are deeply leveraging the technology, and during the pandemic, actually, the uses of digital by the customer got accentuated further, and customer has today become very very demanding. And as somebody said, they are expecting the same kind of service and experience as they are getting at any other platform. Therefore, it becomes very very incumbent on us to provide those kind of things. We are right now experimenting with two three such experiments. I'll give you a few examples. Like for the small business loans, let's say 30,000 40,000 rupees of loans, a customer or prospective customer has to visit a branch, spend 3 4 hours, sometimes they have to visit again and then get the loans. We found that there is a lot of loss of man hours both from the bank side as well as the customer side, and therefore we came out with a solution with a straight through processing, and we have piloted it, tested it, and it has rolled out over the country now. And what is happening is customer using his or her mobile from the place of her convenience can actually log in, give certain information, and if it fits the bank's criteria, within 30 minutes, the loan gets sanctioned and the loan amount actually gets credited into the account of the customer. So that's what we are seeing. Second use case that we are doing today, as I said in the beginning, over 550 million of customers population in the country are using feature phones. So they are not getting benefit of payment systems like UPI and this. So we are now experimenting a new pilot for those feature phone holders, where just by the voice banking and IVR system, they can actually make the UPI payments and enjoy those services. Thirdly, what we are doing is for the merchants, for the businesses, the physical POS machines are costlier to service and also difficult to manage. So we are coming with a soft POS machines where the mobile phone of the customer itself will function as a POS machine, which will give a lot of convenience for the merchant as well as for the customer. So like that, three, four pilots we are already doing, and we are getting very, very good response. I'll just tell you very recently, one of the fishermen somewhere in the coastal area of Tamil Nadu was able to avail a small business loan while sitting in his boat. I think that kind of experience, what I talked about customer experience and what Mr. Mirjankar and Mr. Shetty both talked about, I think that is what is expected now, and all of us are engaged into delivering such kind of customer experience.
Totally. Thank you for that, Mr. Ranjan. Mr. Shetty, again, over the last 2 years, and actually before that also, because the financial services evolution, moving to the digital space, has been happening way before the pandemic also. So, for the way ahead, what's your sense? What lies ahead for cash, for paper currency transactions and card payments in India? What are your thoughts on that?
Now, let me just share what we're seeing at Bank Bazar with some of the data. Now, I think credit card is a product that for the banking industry is doing very well. In fact, 99% of the profit one sees in payments, including UPI, debit, credit card, it's coming in the credit card industry. Now, credit card I see as an aspirational product in India. I think it's going to coexist with UPI. So UPI will definitely be much, much, much larger in terms of volume size. But if you look at profit size, right, I think credit card is going to continue to occupy the healthy 90%, 95% profit pool. But over time, I think BNPL and other forms of instant credit are going to capture market share. I think the important thing, Sumit, what I've realized, right, is that the market is changing very, very quickly, right? Who would have thought that 4 or 5 years ago there would be so many startups investing in BNPL? But today, obviously, this BNPL prepaid card has become a talking point. Now, whether it's profitable or not, whether they'll make it as successful as the bank credit card, time will tell. But I think it's become very interesting at Bank Bazaar because we're constantly collaborating with the large banks and NBFCs to see can we attack this market and can we go to market very, very fast, right? Combining the strengths of the traditional bank, combining the fintech strengths of Bank Bazaar, can that go to market be made, 1 quarter versus 1 year? And I think it's fascinating, right, to see how the next 2 years are going to develop as far as BNPL, UPI, cash, and credit card.
Absolutely, very true. Well, it's time for a very short break here on the Digital India Summit. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. Mr. Mirjankar, I want to come to you on a very important point of security. And I'm not talking physical security, obviously, because we're talking about financial services. I'm talking about money security and data security, because data is the new oil, as they keep saying. But in this scenario, as things are evolving, as more and more people move to online transacting or for online financial services, the importance of protecting both the customer's money, as well as the customer's data. How can banks and other organizations in this ecosystem, what are some steps being taken? What is the importance of this, and how is it being achieved?
I think when we look at the aspect of data privacy, there are processes in place, and I think legislations as well will assist in making sure that that aspect is having a regulation in terms of how it's controlled. Importantly, when someone takes up a product in a particular bank, he or she would want their data to be private, so that it's not a lot of calls that they would then get upon having sort of taken a service from one place. But other than the fact of data uh, privacy in itself as a product, the aspect of identity theft is an important one. What you see nowadays as frauds happening is where it would be in three areas. One, in the initiation of a digital banking account, where someone would not have a digital banking account and still someone would steal their identity either through a SIM being morphed or otherwise, and sort of set up a digital banking account on their behalf. This is one area which is being sort of looked at. The other areas is in terms of the aspect of cybercrime, where the customer's account may not be impacted as much, but it would be the bank's backend systems that would have a Trojan attack or whatever to have impact on a financial loss of sorts to the bank rather than the customer. And this again has been addressed through various areas by regulations by the RBI, whether it was with biometric authentication for usage of systems, whether it is to have cybersecurity audits being done by banks to make sure that they are proactively addressing this area. The last area is about what happens when customers use their digital banking. And this is an area which is more to do with the ignorance of customers. Like, for example, the fact that for a aspect where you have to get a credit, to know that you don't need to enter a pin is something is very basic, which has to be understood by all customers. This is an area I guess will get addressed by more usage of digital banking by customers, and also by more education by banks and the regulators per se, discussing about how to make digital banking more safer. So I think these are being addressed. But overall, I would say from a positive note, the level of uh, losses owing to cybersecurity or financial crime from um, uh, identity theft, etc., is way below what you find in frauds happening in the earlier set of products, including credit cards. So I think from that perspective, the level of frauds that you see is probably because of the increased usage and exponential surge in the volumes, than to do with necessarily a trend that is to see that the system per se is sort of hacked in its processes.
Mr. Ranjan, coming to you, can you share some use cases from the bank side, and also, what would be the advantages of leveraging technology in the current financial system? What are your thoughts on that?
I think the biggest advantage of leveraging technology is creating customer experience. And when we are able to create the customer experience, actually we are becoming the lifetime partner for the customer, and we are able to offer the customer various products and services across their life cycles. That is the biggest advantage. And then there is a stickiness of the customer, and bank is able to garner higher and higher wallet share from the customer. Some of the examples I already quoted, like small business loans that we are doing a straight through processing, the voice based feature phone UPI payment system that we are doing. In addition to that, since you have asked, some of the processes within the bank we are trying to kind of implement technology and bring the intelligent automation so that the processes can become more efficient. For example, in the banking, there is a system of every loan has to be reviewed and renewed at the interval of 1 year. And there, this is sometimes a tedious process because the branch has to connect with the customer, ask for the documents, customer has to visit branches. So what we have done is for certain categories of loan that right now we are testing in the pilot again is about up to 10 lakh rupees of loans to MSMEs. We have built the straight through process again for doing the renewal just by 2 clicks. One click by the customer to say that yes, I am agreeable, and second click the branch has to see all the parameters and say this, I am also giving the consent. So by doing that, the account is getting renewed without customer visiting the branch, just by submitting few information and giving the consent. What it is doing is more important. So a rough calculation shows that on an average, a single account renewal would have taken around 8 to 10 man hours from the customer as well as the bank employee, at least. And by doing that, we are able to do the same thing in 30 minutes. And just you extrapolate, so loans up to 10 lakh rupees in MSME actually constitute more than 90% of the total loans in terms of number of accounts. So that is the power of this kind of automation which we are leveraging in our system. I would also add that all these things which are happening while all the credit goes to technology and this, but the kind of enablers that the government has created through the Digital India stack is phenomenal. I think everything today we do, besides the AI, ML, data analytics, on all these new technologies like RP and blockchain, the key building block for the financial system today is the India's digital stack, which is a kind of cashless layer, presence-less layer, consent layer, and now the new framework of Open Protocol and account aggregator framework. I think they are actually the building blocks for digitization in the financial system, and there is a long way to go.
Well, I'm just about out of time, but before I close the show, I definitely want to come to Mr. Shetty and Mr. Mirjankar for your closing comments. Mr. Shetty, starting with you, specifically in your domain, what's the way ahead? What do you see happening for the way ahead?
Right. Two words here. So the first one, I think, Mr. Ranjan, with STP, right? Everything will be paperless, instantaneous. The second word I want to suggest is collaboration. I think what's going to happen is large balance sheet owners, large banks are going to team up with fintechs, and together, right, they're going to take products to a brand new consumer set. So today, we're able to service, I think, a certain group of consumers. But I think what Bank Bazaar believes is we can enable banks to reach 50 million new customers in collaboration. And what otherwise would have taken a year or 2 years now should happen in 1 or 2 quarters. And for both parties, right, this should be a pay as you go model wherein we can increase financial access, but also do it exponentially, right, using both parties' strengths.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Mr. Shetty, for those valuable insights. Moving on to you, Mr. Mirjankar, same question. Your thoughts the way ahead. What do you see happening specifically in your domain? What are some mega changes that we can expect on the way ahead?
Customer experience being enhanced. As we look at the digital banking products, they will be in areas that will address the entire spectrum or the mass of what we see the population of the country, where you have things, the financial products being addressed right across from rural masses to semi-urban to urban, and then the corporate customers. So that is something that customer experience will be driven to have technologies that can adapt across the board. The other area, of course, will be in the aspects of getting more finesse in terms of the financial ecosystem to address key areas of customer education in terms of addressing fraud and risk. And importantly, I think when we look at the aspect of speed of operations, an area that I see certainly coming in is the aspect of intelligent automation in the back office of banks that will address the ability to respond quicker to various demands for products in this digital age.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Mirjankar, for that. Thank you, Mr. Ranjan, and thank you, Mr. Shetty, for being a part of this spectacular, this very interesting panel. Today, we were talking about the importance of technology and innovation in empowering India's financial sector. This was a special episode of the Digital India Summit, which is a premier initiative by Times Network. Thank you so much for watching.